get up because I know you've been in traffic and stuff too, but because of everything that's up here, rather than me just pick it up and show, let's make it more, pick up and show and tell. But I guess to make it basics for introductions, I'm Marco. I'm at Cabela's down in Tualatin, and I got to say thank you to John Nicholson for coming to be part of this. But we offer these things. So on the idea of what you're doing out in the field, the intent to help you be better protected is part of the education tonight, because obviously the intent of whether or not you encounter, whether it's wildlife or something, a human that's aggressive, and whether or not you have is it your alternative to contain that person if you're away from law enforcement personnel. And so the idea behind that, with an understanding of the variety of the sizes of things that you can practically carry, what will they do and for how long, and more important, what happens if it comes back to you? Because since we are dealing with a chemical agent, it's now going to become a situation of what happens for decontamination. So for introductions on that, again, I have things all across the front here, so I want you to please feel free to get up and come up and pick something up and ask questions. But as we kind of get into that, I'll give focus on the things that I've written up here in the center especially, because the concept behind the three things of devices that will emit either a stream, a fog, and a gel are going to make a difference, both in the dispersion of what happens and how far will that carry. And most reasonably, even the largest of the canisters that are here, the very best that they would ever do, even without any kind of a wind to carry them, roughly 25 feet. 30 maybe, but realistically under. So everything you're thinking about in terms of closing distance, whether it's a human or a beast, is less than 3 seconds. So the idea of the ability to pick that up, make it work, shield yourself when you can, so that any kind of crosswind or blowback is minimized as best as possible, is really up to you. But I just need you to help understand these concepts, again, what a stream will do, what a fog will do in terms of dispersion, and then obviously the benefit, especially when we're potentially encountering humans, is the idea behind what a gel substance will do. Because obviously what we're doing is very rapidly interrupting the entire breathing process, the ability that vision is obscured, and now that person or that beast is incapacitated, and now it's a question of what do I do to move, either what do I do to get away from the situation or have other people get me out if I was injured. And that's also part of what I've done, is to help bring up some other things, trauma kits that we have available that can actually go in BDU type pockets. So it's pretty nice behind the whole hemostatic bandage thing. You guys have probably practiced some with that. I'm now part of a program also called Stop the Bleeding, which is a national campaign, and we can talk later about that. But again, in terms of trauma issues, we have the basics to help do that. So again, the other concept behind this, whether it's urban or obviously out in rural areas, most everything now comes with some type of an ultraviolet dye. And so what that means is, whether the person's successful at getting away, if we're dealing with a hostile human kind of situation, even if they were to potentially clean up, if that person ends up being interviewed at some point, there's no hope of them, because of the fact that the ultraviolet dye is in there, and there's too many places where it's going to be that they can't wash it out. So there's an added benefit of that, but the viscosity of the gel issue is actually something to give consideration to. Again, in that kind of close quarters of that 12 to 15 foot range, and now having literally, what's the stuff that kids play with? Geck, or the stuff they can make, anyhow. So just imagine that on your face. That's what we sometimes play with when we're demonstrating the stuff that you can make at home that the kids play with. And it's really that kind of gooey, but then try to imagine that being sprayed upon you and then trying to clean that from your face. It's not going to happen. So again, now, other things that I've brought up, more what I'd like to really kind of talk about, we have the potential to go outside and demonstrate, so I do have some things with me to help you understand what the projection is. But I also want to make sure that we talk about what kinds of things can I carry? Are these in my pack, or do I have room? Can I make room in my pack for a basic decontamination kit? Because if it were a situation, whether it was a bystander, a person that's being held against their will, and there's contact with that person too, until the rest of the medics show up, what can we do to help them? And so basically we're dealing with the concept of protecting airways. So whether or not you have the capability to even have albuterol, because of the fact that we're basically now dealing with restricted airways. But more important, it's the flushing, basically how much of that's in there, because now the irritants that are both in the eyes, all the mucous membranes, things like that, in terms of help, that process is actually even worse during decontamination, because the chemical compounds in there, the oleocapsicum that's in there based on the different kinds of ratings, it starts to warm up. And so the faster you can start working with something to minimize that, and it basically starts out with as much water as is possible. And following that, then we start working with other products.
Mark, was that an over-the-counter thing that you sell there? That breather thing? What was that?
Albuterol?
Yeah, what is that?
Albuterol, anybody who's got someone in the household that might have an asthma problem, it's going to be still a prescribed item. So unfortunately, that's not an off-the-shelf item.
Right.
But again, if you have it or can make access to it, depending on what your state medical rating is, you could have the ability to do that. Or when EMTs show up, they have ways to integrate that with bottled oxygen systems and provide that to someone. But in an emergency situation, if you were to help assist someone in terms of helping them restore their breathing, have an albuterol canister with you. The other thing behind it is just simply irrigation. So again, literally saline, water, milk even, and even vegetable oil can be used as an irrigator to help minimize that oleocapsicum that's especially in the eyes, around the mouth, and in the nose. More important, it's also going to be an issue for things that whether or not there's any kind of abrasions for the person. So what they'll feel when that pepper is actually in there. So imagine the worst rug burn or whatever you've ever had, and now magnify that. It's uncomfortable. But one of the basic things to add into a kit, literally baby shampoo, because in a combination with the water, having that, and I brought a small bottle, but the reality is you're going to go through a lot of this, because you're going to try and mix this as much as you can, and then realistically helping dampen that whole area. And one of the easiest ways to do that, out of a cosmetic section at Target or wherever, basically makeup wipes, because once you've got a solution, basically then you can start helping assist that person as best you can, the dipping and the wiping, because it's going to take a long time. The reality is it's going to be about an hour before they really have any kind of clear sensation of normal, but they'll be spitting up as if they've had the flu for a long time, just simply how the respiratory system is working. But I will recommend this company here, Sabre, the one that they offer, it's a 2-bottle pack called Cleans and Soothe. It's about $16. Most of if I just say the cop shops in the area, Blumenthal's in Portland, if you're heading down into the Salem area, 911 Supply, but any of the cop shops, or you can mail order. It's just real easy. Galls, if any of you use Galls as a national supplier. But the Sabre system in general, in terms of any of the kind of propelled devices, is one of the very best, because they offer a lot of video-based training programs, and I have to recommend doing that. If I'm going to offer just any kind of a side endorsement, the Sabre brand, even, again, we carry the UDAP brand, which is really good in terms of the chemical compound, but the Sabre people have put a lot of effort into it. With regards to just some other of the irrigation things, having a larger syringe type device, again, that I can still pull, from a clean water source, and then I can help irrigate. So the largest that you can possibly find, and most of the medical supply places, these are very easy to get a hold of because we're not dealing with any kind of hypodermic issues. So, and they're actually part of, I'll have to just say this because as a secondary thing, part of what we do have at Cabela is part of the Sawyer systems for water filters, because their primary purpose when they come in the kits is to help back flush the filters. So if you're ever pulling turbid water, now you can just simply pull that and then squeeze that back through, and it helps for the hollow fiber membrane style filters that we dominantly carry. So I've simply included that as part of the gross decontamination kit. So in addition to that, one of the other parts in the filter kit for other kinds of irrigation, this is the other part of the filtration part, and I can actually connect this like to a sink. So if I have pressured water, then I've got the open top for like a regular bottle, and I can sit there and I can now help irrigate that person's head and clear their eyes and nose. So this has been very helpful. And it actually fits in terms of making it easy to go in a pack. Everything I had right here to show came in something this size, and with Alice clips it can go on any pack. So if you think of something else you can modify, it's just too easy. The other side of making something for really improvised, I don't know if you guys have ever done this on any of your exercises, but any standard water bottle, all I really need to do, even if I pull the top with my knife, I can actually just poke a couple of holes in here, and now I can actually spray. And so that makes a great irrigator, and that goes back to the other Sabre device. It's actually a screw top item, and it actually then it creates a vortex of water. And so I can stand like this and squeeze and basically now provide a flush. And so again, for $11, everybody should have one. It's just too easy. So with regards to, again, I mentioned about the wiping pad. One of the other things that we have at the store, and I'm going to mention this because it's multi-purpose, you probably have seen these in other forms. These are usually seen as the little kind of, for kids, the little compressed bath towels. That's what these are too. There's 50 of them in here, and with just a few drops of water, this thing goes from this little capsule that looks like a airborne tablet, and it becomes a 9x10 towel. And so I can now dip this, and so and there's actually a little pouch, a tube in here, just like an airborne tablet carrier, and I can carry 10, and there's 50 in here, so can't be beat. And this company is actually even now making a much bigger one, but with just a few drops of water, this thing will expand to be 9x10, and this is under $6. So, and I'll also say for an improvised issue, for those occasions when you might be short on toilet paper, it does work. So with that, I guess in terms of a time issue, if anybody wants, if we're ready, I mean, we could certainly go ahead and open. I have a couple things that we can show and demonstrate for the projection. But if you have any questions, in addition to this, and then the one other item that I've written over here, Prevor, the diphoterine is actually kind of the chemical name, but Prevor is a brand name. It's actually an import item from France, but it's also available in the U.S., and it is by far the most kind of, from a chemical decontamination washing solution available in a bottle. That's the stuff to have right there. Between that and this one up here, please, I encourage you to add those to your packs. So with that, oh, I got to show this part off. As a consideration for folks who might be using, say, I'm just thinking of oh my gosh, think of a game cart. All right, if you're using a game cart to carry your gear, or by chance if you're part of any kind of an off-road bike group, depending on how you're getting into the search area, I want you to check this out. So this is actually, instead of a water bottle carrier, I now have a way to carry one of the standard size chemical sprays. So this could actually be on any of the tubes. You can also see, because it's designed, I could do zip ties to almost anything. But again, this will fit into literally any kind of a bike water bottle style carrier. So, and it'll work directly from this. So this collar is actually a two-piece collar, but again, if I had to use it, I simply I'll pull back the safety, and so I can actually pull from and go. John mentioned earlier that one of the others that he carries was this style here. Again, same. The bottle is the canister is the same size, with 8.1 ounces. But on this particular one, they've actually made it so it's basically belt pack ready, and if worn in that kind of style, could actually be could be launched from. I wouldn't have to even draw it. I could actually just pull the safety, and I could shoot forward. So John's modified apparently one of the holsters that he uses, but again, you get the concept for that. So with that, besides a couple of the other other fun things that I've brought up as oh, I forgot to add that in my pack. I want you guys to come up, or if you guys are ready, we can go outside and we could test fire a couple of things if you want. Standing range, so if you're going to be in the light, that way the projection will go towards us.
Oh, so we can film it this way.
Right, this is inert.
This is what you want?
So,
Okay, wait, we got
okay.
This is, it says inert.
Yeah, so just, for confirmation purposes, at the moment we are using inert. So, if you were to have one, you can do a test burst. If you do something like that and decide to put it back, because it is in a sense like a fire extinguisher, you don't have to use all of it. You can push it back, but please make sure to clean off that front end, and do it with gloves. So, all right, so John's ready he's going to pace it off here. We got the full moon going.
So this is probably what I would use the first shot on a bear to this side. This is what I guess.
And the idea, right? Because hopefully even a little further, if you've got 40 or 50 feet, go ahead and make a burst first, and then keep the rest. Because
you guys should try that. Okay.
Yeah, because in this size, you'll have, in terms of operating number of seconds, you'd have the ability to run about 9 seconds if you held it down. But on the idea of a burst, or several bursts, because even like when we get to the small ones, there's really only about 10 little bursts in here. So, all right, John's getting ready.
1, 2, 3, go.
There.
1, 2, 3, go.
At the distance.
Oh, that's pretty good.
See?
But it stopped just short of it, didn't it?
Right, so by that time, if that thing's still moving at you, why are you closing in? Yeah.
Because I'm that guy. Oh, really?
Why are you closing in?
Oh, really? That's my dog.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong. Okay.
So,
anybody?
Get a sideways burst, please, you guys. I have 2 of them, so.
That's a lot more than I thought. I feel good about it now.
What's the size on that one, Marco?
Both of these are in the 8.1 ounce type. This is more conventional. If you get to the larger size, if you're able to get the law enforcement ones, they actually have like a paint spray can handle. But realistically, it's this. This is what we have off the shelf. So if you're at Cabela's, we've got lots of this.
So I just found out that safety latch thing was harder than I thought to take off.
Now the one that John had a small, there was just a small piece on it where
it's an orange clip.
Yeah, and this one is going to have an elastic strap on it, so that's the way this came. But again, this is a trainer model, and we'll look at the ones when we get back inside.
I thought that would slide right off. I had to break it off. I mean, really hard.
Well, the adrenaline would be blowing anyway.
Probably. But it surprised me how tough
So
it
we
was.
can come in from two
Anybody else wanna
directions.
try it?
Anybody, we can come in from two directions. Because remember that when we go to the next one, these are real, all right? So, and I will ask you to put on gloves, and again, we'll sample these, but this is realistic at about 6 to 9 feet.
So it's still going. How much you got left?
Can't see through.
We shake it.
Does that one have about the same as the
Yeah,
regular one?
same level
Same
of
amount?
propellant, yeah. So again, we can come in from 2 angles if you guys want. So, you know, we're here to play. So
that was really more like a 15.
yeah, what you saw there for an effective range, you know, especially if something's moving in on you. So if you want, I've got the other 2. If you want, my suggestion will be if we let these go, if you dare, I'm going to say we'll shoot it into the tub. And if you want to come and get a whiff by it, you know, be prepared.
Okay, so this thing
requires
turns
a
and then
flip.
goes.
Right. These little ones require you have to flick and press.
Yeah, I want to try this. Because I think these things would be pretty much worthless.
Where's your glove?
But, oh yeah, love it.
Safety.
Love it, baby.
PP.
Are those extreme ones? Walking in front.
So the wind probably is going right at you, Matt. It's not much. So what do you think, this is stream or?
This one is set up as a, make sure I remember here, this is small fog.
Small fog?
Yeah.
So I'm going to slow this down. So I twisted it, and now it's clear, and I see a little deal. Well, that works pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually, that works pretty darn good.
Was that the gel one?
No, this is still
That
just conventional.
That is really surprising how good that works.
Yes.
Is that hitting that
So-
container?
Yeah, I just nailed
So,
it.
and
Every
you
one.
see what it's doing to discolor it already?
Yep. You want to try it?
I want to see if I get a whiff of it.
It's that really worked for this size. I'm shocked.
So did you feel any blowback at your position?
Nope.
Okay.
But my voice got higher.
No, but I don't smell it.
Where did it hit?
Here, I'll take it.
You want to go with the second one or the inert
That
one?
I'll
was.
try the inert one.
I thought this would be absolutely worthless.
So this is the firing side, so you need to be back here, and then that has to come, that orange thing will come
So
out.
I'm glad I gloved
Yes.
up.
And it's on, you can see it's on an elastic
Your nose
strap,
itches
so
right now,
it's
right?
gonna fall back and it
Is that something in your eye?
Because as a trainer,
Looks like a bug in your eye, dude.
Could put it back.
And your beard is melting.
You just keep pulling.
No, I just look like that after a bottle of wine.
If you see underneath, so the trigger is this black part right here.
Okay.
So it could actually happen in one move.
I'll try it.
Well, we've got this one. Is this one still charged? A little bit.
Oh,
There's a
glove
little
up,
bit in
because
here. If you want
it
to
ended
empty,
up all over my
empty that
gloves,
one
bud.
first.
Okay.
Barry?
No, I'm not. This is inert.
Oh, okay.
I'd still wash your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Look at how big.
Bear.
There. Now don't do that. Don't do that. But Barry, what you just did, because you saw how that when you shook it and raised it up, how much of that, if that had been real, Barry'd be on the ground right now. All right, and the bear would be eating you. All right, so we have one more canister of the small, if anybody really wants, because we're here to
You
play.
ever fired one?
Are you going airborne yet? All right, I didn't know if you were going to put us on. All right, I think that one squirted out, right? Yeah. Yep. All right, so I've got one. If you guys have... Oh, we're going up. Yours is quieter than that.
Yeah, more powerful.
Yep. All right, you guys. Well, so based on that, how about we can either drop back and go to part 2 of our show tonight, and thank you guys very much for coming out to
That's great.
and again, encourage you to come try this stuff and add it to your packs. It'll be to your benefit now that you feel more comfortable with it.
Does Cabela's have senior discount?
Military every day, sir. Military every day. And then we have, and I've got that coupon in there for you too.
Yeah.
All right. All right, you guys. Well, thank you very much for the addition of the LEDs, and we'll drop back inside.